All right, nice to have you aboard. I'm Will Doctor, bringing you the latest on the world of golf here at the midway point of the Sony Open. You have one round to go as far as the overnight DP World Tour coverage at the Dubai Invitational, where Rory McIlroy is going to start the final round 3 back. Shane Lowry to start the final round 1 back. Nacho Olivera is leading the way through 54 at the Dubai Invitational. We'll get to that a little bit later on. At the Sony, there's a 5-way tie at the top between defending champion Nick Taylor, Davis Riley, S.H. Kim, Adrian Dumont, DeChastart, and Kevin Roy. We'll hear from all of them here shortly, but without a doubt, the best storyline heading into the weekend at the Sony is Vijay Singh making the cut. 30-time PGA Tour winner using his career money exemption this year. And what that means is if you're inside the top 50 on the PGA Tour all-time career money list, you can regain full PGA Tour status for one season. And Vijay, at 62 years old, decided to use it here in 2026. And there's really no other sport you would see that happen. A 62-year-old returning to the highest level of the game, and he's off to a great start at the Sony. Gonna play the weekend. This is a tournament he won back in 2005 when he beat out Ernie Els by one shot. You look at that year, Vijay would go on to win the Houston Open. 2 months later, beating John Daly in a playoff at Golf Club of Houston, which is one of the better rewatchables of all time. But I could not be more fired up to watch a motivated veteran in Vijay Singh, play his first full season on the PGA Tour in 9 years. And yesterday he became the oldest player to make the cut in a PGA Tour event since Freddie Couples did it at the 2023 Masters at 63. I was really hoping that Golf Channel would get Vijay on the broadcast yesterday afternoon, give us a feel the atmosphere from a vet that made history. Loved the interview with Webb, loved the interview with Kiefer, but you absolutely have to get a legend in Vijay on the mic in that type of spot. The coverage through 2 rounds has been absolutely sensational, especially when you think about the fact that you had 3 superstars grinding out the cut all throughout the day yesterday. Friday at the Sony was a excellent example of why you have to keep 36-hole cuts on the PGA Tour. Hideki Matsuyama had to birdie the last 2 to play the weekend yesterday morning. World number 17, Colin Morikawa, had to make a 4 on the par 5 18th to make the weekend and couldn't do it. He's packing bag. Russell Henley had to chip in for birdie on 17 to make the cut. A couple other storylines. ISCO winner William Mao had to make an eagle on the last to make the cut to Sony. Seamus Power, who we have to top 20, he made an eagle on 18 to make the weekend. How about Sahith Theegala? Lives here in Houston, coming off injury. He shot a second round 66 and birdied the last to make the cut, rebounding from an opening round 73. Here was Theegala on the tale of 2 stories between Thursday and Friday.
Yeah, obviously tough day out here with the wind, and felt like golf was relatively easy yesterday, and I felt good today. Great start. And
this is Chris Gotterup. No worries at all. That is Chris Gotterup, who is in a tie for 6th at 8 under. We'll get to the Theegala tape shortly, but the bottom line is I was on the edge of my seat all day watching these guys grind it out, to make the weekend. And if I'm PGA Tour Enterprise, I'm watching that action and automatically enforcing a cut at all signature events with the way that it elevates the Friday afternoon midway point product. Here was Theegala after grinding out a 66.
Yeah, it's the beauty of this place. I said it before, it's a place that stands the test of time for sure. The weather definitely helps, but just such a cool design golf course, ton of dog legs, requires so much discipline, something that I still don't know if I fully have. But yeah, it's a course that you can go low, even in windy conditions like this. Some of the downwind holes end up playing a lot easier, and you definitely need to take advantage of that and kind of just hang on the end of the wind and the crosswind holes. So yeah, if I have another kind of spurt like I did today, tomorrow, you never know. And that's the beauty of of the PGA Tour, and why making a cut is such a sweat and so nervous is, you're just another round of golf or 2 rounds of golf away from being, having a great finish, and you just never know what that's going to do for your entire season.
You absolutely have to have a 36-hole cut at every PGA Tour event, and Theegala will start the weekend 8 back of the lead. Once again, made the cut on the number of 1 under, but Waialae has been set up absolutely perfect this week. We're finally watching a regular season PGA Tour event where the course is set up with actual teeth. Waialae only stretches out to 7,000 yards, so it's nowhere near the longest on tour. But when the rough is grown out like it is this year, plus you have winds howling off the Pacific Ocean, leaders have been held to single digits under par going into the weekend, which is a rarity on the West Coast. You have to take your hat off to PGA Tour agronomist Mike Crawford and Waialae Superintendent Dave Nakama. This course has been set up for great theater going into weekend 1 of the PGA Tour season. I'm fired up to get into it. We start with Nick Taylor, who closed at 40-1 odds to defend his championship this week. He's a 5-time PGA Tour winner who opened 62-69 as part of that 4-way tie at the top. Now, don't forget, Nick Taylor, we're going to talk about a lot of players today. Nick Taylor is a proven closer in the big moment. He beat Nico Echeverria in a playoff here to win last year. His win before that, Taylor's 4th, came in 2024 when he beat Charlie Hoffman in a playoff. And then he had the famous win at home in Canada back in 2023 where he beat Tommy Fleetwood in a playoff at Oakdale. Here was Nick Taylor after round 2.
Yeah, I always love coming back here. It's great to start off the year with some solid golf. Just because I've had a great history, that doesn't necessarily mean I'm going to play great, but it certainly helps, and I'm excited to have a chance to win again.
Yeah, Nick Taylor has been one of the best around Waialae over the last 4 years. Not only did he win here last year, but also had top 10s in 2023 and 2024. Taylor is down to plus 550 to win. Once again, closed at 40-1. There's a good reason he's down to plus 550. He is a sensational closer of the golf tournament with great history at the Sony. Will be a super tough guy to beat this weekend as he looks to become the first back-to-back winner of this golf tournament since Jimmy Walker about a decade ago. Davis Riley is also part of the 4-way tie at the top. He's a 2-time PGA Tour winner whose last victory came up the road at Colonial in 2024. Vegas does not have as much confidence in Riley as Nick Taylor. Davis Riley is 18-1 heading into the weekend, likely because it's been a tough go for him with only 3 top 10s over the last year and a half since that win. He sort of came out of nowhere last year at Quail Hollow for the PGA Championship, where he finished tied second. But in Davis Riley's 14 events since, he has not finished better than tied for 32nd. So, once again, 29 years old, 2 wins on the PGA Tour. Riley is someone who knows how to get the job done, but it comes in flashes. Here was Riley on finding some better putting this week at Waialae.
Yeah, I've actually got a new putter, and this is my first week using it. So it was one I changed into actually about a week and a half ago. So it's kind of a last-minute switch before we got the season started. And, and it felt really good in my hands. It feels really good on the greens, and it's just matching, my eye really well. I went with a different face. I found a little bit this off-season my ball was kind of launching a little bit high and wasn't getting quite enough topspin and hitting the ground running soon enough. And I've got a different face that Scotty Cameron made me. And it gets the ball rolling a little bit quicker, and I can definitely tell the ball is rolling tighter to the ground, and I think that's why I'm starting to see a lot of good putts go in.
Yeah, great stuff there, and Riley has put on a clinic through 2 rounds on the greens, atop not only the leaderboard, but Riley's also number 1 in the field in putting so far this week. We'll see if he can keep up the heater. He's outside the top 50 in literally every other stat this week, so I would personally not wager on Riley at 18-1 rolling into the weekend. Adrian Dumont de Chastard is the 3rd man tied at the top going into the weekend at the Sony. 25-year-old Belgian who was a PGA Tour rookie 2 years ago, had a lot of growing pains in 2024 with only 2 top tens that year in Puerto Rico and Bermuda. He goes back to the Korn Ferry Tour last year, ends up winning the second to last event of the season by 7 shots to cap off a year where he logged 4 other top 10 finishes. Plenty good enough to get into the top 20 on the Korn Ferry Tour and get his PGA Tour card back. Chassard likes this golf course. Missed the cut here 2 years ago, but spoke highly of it with a media scrum after round 2.
Yeah, I mean, it's nice to come back to a place where, I know the layout. I feel like I was able to prepare a little bit better than I did 2 years ago. But I usually like playing in the wind, so if you can, kind of have a low shot that you can hit straight, it's pretty big out here. And just grinding. You're going to miss some greens, so if you already have the mindset to try to make up and downs, it's pretty big out here.
Yeah, it'll be, this is another guy, has not done it at the top level yet, but once again, won a Korn Ferry Tour event by 6 shots, no less than 3 months ago. So, watch out for ADDC going into the weekend. SH Kim is the final player that is in a 4-way tie at the top going to the weekend at the Sony, and this is a player who, closed at 250-1 going into the week. I was very high on SH Kim at the Sony Open. He is a 27-year-old out of Korea who finished top 10 on the KFT standings last year to earn his PGA Tour card, and he's played a lot more golf over the last 3 months than the majority of players in this field. He played multiple events in Asia and Korea over the offseason while most of these players were posted up on the couch. Talking about the 4-way tie at 8 under, the guys who were 1 back, that's Maverick McNeely, Chris Gotterup, John Parry, and Takumi Kanaya. Great bunch there. You thought, starting with McNeely, starting with Gotterup, you thought Scottish Open champion Chris Gotterup was going to get on an early run yesterday. He looked like he might take a big lead heading into the weekend. Got off to a great start Thursday, opening in 63. And then yesterday he was 3 under through 5 in his opening round before stalling out. Made a couple loose bogeys on 8 and 14. Failed to birdie the easy par 5 9th and 18. Gotterup talked about how he liked this course. He liked the old school aspect of this course, the wind that blows off the coast of Honolulu. Here was Gotterup after round 2.
Yeah, I think that's the beauty of, these old school courses. And, unless someone's playing unbelievable, you're going to get some tight leaderboards and not awfully high scoring. And especially if it's going to be windy like this, it's going to be tough. So, I'm excited for the weekend and, first week back at work. So excited to be in the mix.
Yeah, Gotterup, once again, won the Scottish and then finished top 5 at the Open a week later. He is someone who, when you look into the crystal ball, the U.S. Open at Shinnecock, Chris Gotterup could be a major threat there, could be morphing into kind of the next Brooks Koepka, who we will get to on the other side. We'll also dive into Jordan Spieth's chances going into the weekend at the Sony. We will talk about a great value play going into the weekend. I want to talk about Michael Kim, who sits 4 back at 5 under at 70-1 going into the weekend. Interesting number there. We'll get to that a little later on. This is the Golf Hour with Will Doctor. Back after this.
Mike Booker, chairman of the Texas Golf Hall of Fame and holder of a record number of Texas Golf Association championships.
The Texas Golf Hall of Fame is the foundation of golf in our great state. So many great individuals, Ben Hogan, Byron Nelson, Kathy Whitworth, Ben Crenshaw, and many others, lead the way in making golf in Texas known around the world. Now you can experience the history of Texas golf digitally at texasgolfhof.org and share with your family and friends. See you on the course.
This is the Golf Hour
on ESPN 97.5 and the ESPN Houston app.
From the Huntington Bank Studios, here's Will Doctor.
All right, welcome aboard. You have a couple PGA Tour winners bunched at the top at the Sony Open going into the weekend. In case you're just joining us, defending champion Nick Taylor is in a five-way tie at the top of the leaderboard. Davis Riley, also a two-time PGA Tour winner, up in a share of the lead going into the weekend. And then at the Dubai Invitational, Nacho Oliveira has a two-shot lead there at Dubai Creek Resort. He is at 8 under, 2 shots clear of former Texas X, Dylan Fratelli, and Shane Lowry. And Rory McIlroy is 3 shots back there at 5 under par. We'll get back to the leaderboard shortly, take some of your calls, get to Spieth a little bit later on. We heard the news break earlier this week that 5-time major champion Brooks Koepka has been reinstated as a PGA Tour member and will be in the field in 2 weeks at Torrey Pines. Now, this happened via the PGA Tour creating a new returning member program, which was built for major winners or players champions between 2022 and 2025. And the penalties that Koepka had to agree to were a 5-year forfeiture of potential equity in the PGA Tour's player equity program, which the tour is estimating at a potential 50 to 85 million in lost earnings for Koepka. And the tour is also describing it as one of the largest financial repercussions in pro sports history. We'll get to whether that's true or false later on. And then Koepka will have to make a $5 million charitable donation. $5 million. Bryson DeChambeau had the same deal on the table with a year left in his contract. He turned it down. The Telegraph also reported this week that DeChambeau is going to seek a 4-year contract for at least $500 million after this year. I know I said $1 billion last week, but the Telegraph confirmed this week that the number is going to be $500 million for 4 years for Bryson. And Bryson also told some media this week that after this year, he could see just doing YouTube golf and playing majors in 2027 and beyond. He said that is definitely on the table. Jon Rahm, Cam Smith, they were both offered this deal from the PGA Tour as major winners between 22 and 25. Both rejected. Cam Smith seems to be committed to build out Ripper GC. They just added Elvis Smiley, and Australia gets much more fired up about live golf than we do here in the States. And Jon Rahm's contract does not expire until 2027, so he is not going anywhere. Before we get to some opinions, let's get into a couple player reactions when it comes to Koepka returning to the tour, starting with one Tiger Woods speaking on it at TGL on Tuesday night.
We received his letter on December 23rd that he wants to come back. Wrote to the commissioner and Brian. We took that letter and then took it to both boards and tried to implement a plan that would be fair and adequate, that justifies Brooks' time away from our tour. The penalties served, the fines if necessary, what the integration would look like on our tour, and obviously the bonus payouts, yes or no. And we had lots of subsequent meetings, worked through the holidays. There was no days off, and we just worked through it day after day after day, and we came out with a plan that we unveiled. And yes, we're not going to satisfy every player. This plan was created for a very select few players that met the criteria. You know the names. And as far as his integration, he has the right, I think, in our sport with our meritocracy that we have on the PGA Tour, that he has the right to earn his way into signature events. And if he plays well enough, he has a chance to earn his way into the playoffs. But he's not going to get the bonus pool from that. But he has a chance to earn his way into those fields. Plus, on top of that, he's not taking a spot away from any player. Okay, that was one of the main concerns and one of the big things that myself and the other player directors demanded that was never going to be the case. He's an additive. And then on top of that, to fill out the group, or if it happens to be in a summer where it's twosomes or it happened to be where it's threesomes, there's 2 more players that could get in. So the alternate list, I think they're going to be impacted getting in 1 or 2 more events, which is a positive thing. And on top of that, we get what is it, probably top 3 of his generation player back that went to another tour, played over there, and was adamant about coming back here and got out early to come back. That says a lot about the PGA Tour, where we're headed, what we have done, what we accomplished, and the players who have stayed and have supported the tour. Having another world-class player that these guys are going to try and beat, that's what the fans demanded. That's what the fans wanted for our fan initiative program, and I think we've addressed that.
As far as Koepka being ineligible to collect FedEx Cup bonus money, that was true when the Big Cat gave this quote on Tuesday. And then on Wednesday, the tour announced that the Tour Championship purse is now going to be official money instead of being part of a FedEx Cup bonus pool. So that means if Koepka makes it to East Lake, he could absolutely win a share of the $40 million purse, including the first place $10 million prize. So there is no penalty here when it comes to Koepka in the playoffs. He is eligible to go to East Lake, win the whole thing, and take all the money. Now, 2023 U.S. Open champion Wyndham Clark gave a little more of an honest feel on the situation, a feel of a player who was offered by LIV, declined, and is now feeling some jealousy that Koepka gets to walk back without penalty. Here was Clark with Colton Yost earlier this week.
Gosh, I'm so torn. I mean, I personally really like Brooks, and I think it's ultimately really good for the PGA Tour. But also, a guy that had an opportunity to go to LIV, it's kind of frustrating that, he's able to, get the cake and also eat it. So I don't know. I'm very torn because at the end of the day, I want whatever's best for the PGA Tour. And I think if guys come back, especially top players like Brooks, it's only going to help the tour, which is ultimately going to help me. So, yeah, I mean, I don't know really how I feel. I wish maybe there was a few more repercussions, but, I'm glad the things that they set in place, I think are pretty decent. And I also like the hard deadline. I think that's good. I just hope they stick with that and they don't waver on that maybe in like a year or two.
It is fantastic for the fans, for the PGA Tour, really for the entire world of golf that the tour gets Koepka back right here, right now. It is a win that the PGA Tour is further destroying LIV, especially here in the States. If the tour gets DeChambeau back after this year, LIV Golf will likely cease to exist here in the U.S. and it'll be more of an international tour. I don't want to sit here and undersell the work LIV has done in places like Australia and like South America. I love how they're getting golf to fans who are hungry for it in different parts of the world. But LIV Golf in the United States has been one of the bigger failures in sports history in this country. Now, from a media perspective, not a fan perspective, I am shocked that the PGA Tour created this program rather than telling players you can drop your LIV card, you can serve a year-long suspension, and then you can come back. When Koepka left LIV a couple weeks ago, I thought he would really construct a deal with the PGA Tour where he would only play the majors this year, and then he would come back fresh in 2027. Not only are they letting him back now, but there are absolutely no penalties. This 50 to 85 million in forecasted player equity. Do you know the kind of run that Koepka would have to go on at 35 years old in order to earn the tour $50 to $85 million? Koepka would have to go on the type of run Scheffler is on right now to feel a pinch of 50 to 85 million. You know, for his peers to see that much equity from his success, Brooks Koepka would have to go on a Tiger-esque 2000s run at 35 years old. And he gets to take home all of his tournament winnings this year. He's going to have a chance at $40 million at Eastlake. I'm curious to how the media elite actually believes this penalty is anything other than the fact that Koepka won't see a side check from the PGA Tour over the next 5 years. You know, the kind of check that Tiger and Scheffler and Cantlay get, the thank you for your service check. You know, Brooks might not be getting one of those in the mail for the next 5 years. But the rollout from the media was like a timed release on Monday when the Koepka news broke. It seemed like all of the media elite was in cahoot regarding what to say. You heard things like, oh, the Tour did the right thing. The PGA Tour nailed it. I think Brooks will be as good a version of himself as we've ever seen. These are all quotes from notable media members. I mean, Brandel was acting like Brooks having to donate $5 million to charity was some major penalty for him. Let me remind you, Brooks Koepka just made $146 million at Live Golf. Supporting a circus that was poaching players, poaching key dates on the PGA Tour schedule. They hired media bots, Twitter talking heads to talk down on the tour. They increased purses to force the tour to get an investment from SSG. You know, Albert Huddleston flying the Live Golf flags over Craig Ranch during the Byron Nelson. And we're going to act like a $5 million charitable donation is a pinch for Koepka. I'm not so sure that's enough at all. I thought at the very least every player would have to serve a 1-year suspension after dropping Live membership, regardless of stature in the game. But that's not going to be the case. And it's not like the tour needs Brooks and Bryson for views. The ratings were up for the PGA Tour in 2025, all while over the last 4 years, Live Golf with Brooks, Bryson, Rahm, DJ, Waco, Phil, and all the oil money in the world. Yet all that going on, you couldn't get over 1 million views on Sunday. Now, I know Bryson is the premier product, the number one showman in the world of golf, but the successful YouTube ratings haven't translated over to Live at all. Here was Rick Fowler on the situation.
I think it's great. I feel like Brooks has been in a position he's wanted to be back playing with us for quite a while. So I'm very happy that we're back in the position where we're at now. I think the guys that were involved on the board level and the players that are involved, I think they did a great job of figuring out how do we make this happen, and making it feel like obviously we want him back, and it not to feel like it was a closed door. So I know he's excited. I saw him actually as I was on the PAC call, receiving the news that everything was going through and what was going to happen. So yeah, I think there's a lot of people that are excited about it.
Yeah, I think most of America feels the same way. I think all of us are, regardless of penalty, all of us are fired up to watch Brooks at Torrey in 2 weeks. I'm just saying that the way the tour is rolling this out on the fly, picking and choosing who comes back, total circus move. I mean, Koepka comes back to the tour. Pat Perez gets reinstated to the Champions Tour, but Hudson Swafford has to finish out his suspension. Swafford has to sit out until the 2027 season. It's not an equal penalty for all defectors. I would expect a little bit better from the tour on that front. Quick break. Back after this.
Mike Booker, chairman of the Texas Golf Hall of Fame and holder of a record number of Texas Golf Association championships.
The Texas Golf Hall of Fame is the foundation of golf in our great state. So many great individuals: Ben Hogan, Byron Nelson, Kathy Whitworth, Ben Crenshaw, Babe Zaharias, Tom Kite, and many more lead the way in making golf in Texas known around the world. Learn about the historic golf courses and the individuals that promoted the game through leadership, teaching, and passion. Texas and golf go hand in hand in the history of the game and camaraderie. Together we can honor the past, celebrate the present, and inspire future generations of Texas golfers. Golf is a sport for everyone, and I encourage you to experience the history of Texas golf digitally at texasgolfhof.org and share with your golf family and friends. That's texasgolfhof.org. See you on the course.
You're listening to the Golf Hour
on ESPN 97.5 and 97.9 HD2.
From the Huntington Bank Studios, here's Will Doctor.
Two absolutely sensational segments in the book. We move forward. We'll get to your calls here in a bit. 713-780-3776 is the number. Davis Riley matched the low round of the day on Friday at the Sony. Took it to 6 under par, shot 64. Ryan Gerard was the other player who shot 64 on Friday. Riley 1-for-1 to date with 36-hole leads. Had the 36-hole lead at the Charles Schwab Challenge and closed the door in the big spot. Has some success over the years at the Sony Open, tied 20th back in 2022. But as we talked about in segment one, Riley's been on a total heater with the putter over the last 2 days. Ball striking numbers have not been overly impressive, so I would pass on him going into the weekend. Love defending champion Nick Taylor, who is seeking his 6th win on the PGA Tour. We last saw him win last year at the Sony Open. Before that, it was the 2024 Phoenix Open. And as we talked about in segment one, looking to become the first back-to-back winner of this tournament since Jimmy Walker in 2015. And then S.H. Kim, I think, probably still being highly slept on rolling into the weekend. This is a 27-year-old looking for his first PGA Tour win. Finished second back in Napa in 2023. But he is a player who just came off the Korn Ferry Tour playing with really incredible poise, having a lot of success over the last year. I like S.H. Kim rolling into the weekend as far as players at the top of the leaderboard. Where are the favorites at the Sony Open? Russell Henley opened as the tournament favorite at 12-1. Russell grinded it out to make the cut this week. He is in a tie for 47th at 2 under par rolling into the weekend. Hideki Matsuyama was the second favorite at 16-1. Matsuyama made the cut on the number at 1 under after closing his second round with a chip in on chipped in on the 17th, made a clutch birdie on the par 5 18th. Matsuyama's on the weekend. Ben Griffin was your third favorite at 18-1. He is in a tie for 14th at 6 under par and is live at 14-1 heading into the weekend. Strong start on Thursday for Griffin, opening in 63. Fell behind yesterday with a 71. But Griffin, a lot of strong course history, as we talked about on Tuesday. Has the top 20 back in 2023, and he's coming off a win in his last start back in November at Diamante. So I expect Griffin to continue to climb board heading into the weekend. J.J. Spaun, the U.S. Open champ, he opened 20-1 to start the week, was the fourth favorite on the odds board. Spaun, like Griffin, had a very strong start to the week, opening in 66, and then was just plagued by a complete bogey train to start Friday. Spaun bogeyed 2, 4, and 5 to begin his second round and ended up only getting a couple shots back to shoot one over. Spaun, he's at 3 under beginning the weekend, 6 shots back of the lead. From a betting angle, you look at the numbers. Spaun, he struggled both with his iron play and putting through 2 rounds, outside the top 50 in both categories. I would not be taking J.J. Spaun live at 100-1 going into the weekend. Siwoo Kim was your fourth favorite at 22-1. How about the grind and fight from Siwoo Kim over the first 2 rounds? He was 4 over through 8 holes on Thursday and proceeds to play his closing 10 holes in 4 under to open in 1 under, and then he cleaned it up yesterday with a 4 under 66. So he starts the weekend 4 back the leaders at 5 under total, and Siwoo is someone, we have him top 10 to start the week. Siwoo is someone who, if the conditions get tough and players have to continue playing in these tough scoring conditions, like I said, heavy wind in Honolulu this week, and the rough is up. If that continues and this doesn't turn into a putting contest, watch out for Siwoo Kim to be there down the stretch tomorrow as he goes into the weekend at 30-1 odds. Some nice value there for Siwoo as he closed 22-1 pre-tournament, now 30-1. How about Colin Morikawa? He was the 6th favorite. He continues to drop down the odds boards. He closed at 22-1. Morikawa packed his bags last night after rounds of 72, 68, left him 1 shot outside the cut line. He missed an 8-foot birdie putt on 18 yesterday and had his head in his hands, looking like he was on the verge of tears after missing the cut in the first tournament of the season. That was super real emotion there being poured out from the 2-time major champion, who is completely lost with the chipping and putting right now. That is 6 straight events in a row for Morikawa where he has putted well below average compared to the rest of the field, and there is a ton of pressure on putting coach Phil Kenyon, a ton of pressure on chipping specialist Stephen Sweeney. I wouldn't say those two are on the hot seat yet, but we'll monitor that situation. Phil works with Scheffler, so it might actually be more of a situation where Maury is on the hot seat with Phil. A lot of people thought Morikawa could break out of his slump this week at Waialae, especially a place he has deep family ties, a couple top 20s over the years. That was not the case. We will see him in 2 weeks at Torrey Pines. Let's get to a call, 713-780-3776. Timmy time. Timmy, what do you got for us this morning? Fire away. Tim, you're on the Golf Hour with Will Doctor. Let's be ready. Let's be ready to roll. Fire away.
Good morning, Doc.
Hey, good morning, Timmy. What's going on?
Just enjoying the first golf tournament of the season. I think we have a great Sony Open out in Hawaii. And a guy who put himself right in the thing of things yesterday is Ryan Gerard. And as you know, he's coming off almost pulling off a win at the Afro-Asia.
Yeah, finished top
World
5 there
Tour.
at the Mauritius in the last DP event of the season, which put him inside the top 50. Got the Masters invite. Shot a 64 tie low round of the day yesterday, Timmy time, up to tied for 10th. You like Gerard rolling into the weekend?
I do. I think he is a dog. If the weather gets bad, I think he's a guy that can fight through the tough conditions. He can play in the wind. And I think his confidence is at a level right now where he believes he can win and could pick up win number 2 in his early PGA Tour career.
Yeah, we've got him in the matchup over Jake Knapp. And Knapp's playing some solid golf, too. Came out and surprising me here a little bit as he only trails Gerard by 1. But no, absolutely love the look on Gerard. Won the CUDA last season, skipped the Open, thought, going to the CUDA was a better option. Ended up winning that tournament. And then, really did not play for he played a couple fall events, took a couple months off, and then in the last event of the DP season in 25, played the Mauritius and clutched up in top 5 to get himself inside the top 50. I like Gerard, over the next 2 rounds. I mean, Tim, do you see anything as far as these round 3 matchups as far as Gerard? I don't like taking Gerard over Michael Kim. I like Michael Kim going to the weekend. He's only 5 shots back. Let's see, Gerard over Patrick Rogers. That might be a good look. Rogers, not a whole lot of success over his PGA Tour career over the weekends. And then I don't like Gerard over Chris Gotterup, who is an absolute killer. We saw close the door at the Scottish Open. Ryan Gerard over Patrick Rogers in round 3. Is that where you're leaning, Timmy time?
I am. That's exactly where I'm leaning.
All right. Well, we'll let you. There's your pick, Gerard. Over Patrick Rogers in round 3. I can get behind that, absolutely. Tim, thanks for your time. Thanks for the call. Another guy who could climb up the leaderboard today is Jordan Spieth. Still yet to talk about him in today's show. We're going to hear him talk about the difference between round 1 and round 2. We're going to hear him talk about his optimism for 2025. We're going to take a quick break. This is the Golf Hour with Will Doctor. Back after this.
The Golf Hour continues now on ESPN 97.5 and 97.9 HD2.
From the Huntington Bank Studios, here's Will Doctor.
The two guys that are either at the top of the board or one back going into Saturday at the Sony, who I think are really, proven closers and guys who've played fairly consistently over the last 6 months. That's Nick Taylor and Chris Gotterup. Taylor is the defending champion in a 5-way tie at the top at 9 under. Gotterup is one back at 8 under. We'll start with Taylor on the changing conditions. Here he was after round 2.
Yeah, the wind was strong and with some gusts. A lot of the holes were relatively crosswind, so it was tough to get the yardages correctly with, sometimes it would hurt, sometimes it would help. You almost had to time your shots correctly and get a little bit of luck too. So, I felt like I hit it probably not as good off the tee today, but it was definitely difficult with the wind. 3 or 4, I feel like we're a couple yards off of being in the fairway. If not, they're just in bunkers or not, and just made it difficult to try to make birdies. So, everything was relatively sharp. Just got to keep trying to find fairways.
Yeah, what a 62 in the opening round from Nick Taylor. I mean, he has the potential. 1 under yesterday. But he has the potential to go back and close out this tournament with 2 rounds sub 65. Would absolutely watch out for Taylor rolling into the weekend. And then, Chris Gotterup, he's got this stinger he's using off the tee that is flowing absolutely perfect. He was a guy who I was keeping a close eye on early in yesterday's round when he was 3 under through 5, and I was surprised that that second round didn't turn into another 63 for him. Here was Gotterup on playing through the wind.
Yeah, obviously tough day out here with the wind, and felt like golf was relatively easy yesterday, and I felt good today. Great start, and it was a grind on the back, and coming through the turn here, parring both par 5s here, you feel like you left a couple out there, but if you told me, going into the weekend on Wednesday, I'd be 1 or 2 out, I would have probably taken it and ran. So, happy with the start.
I want to talk about Jordan Spieth because he's 5 back in a tie for 28th after rounds of 68. Jordan Spieth is in this golf tournament. And, I mean, he is 100 to 1 to win going into the weekend. Spieth is looking very good as far as the driving and iron play, ranking top 25 in both categories going into the weekend. He overcame a missed 3-footer in the first round on the par 3 fourth at Waialae, and talked about handling the gusty conditions in Honolulu.
I thought they were really similar. I thought they were actually almost identical. I thought both, I played really well in the wind, and I think I maybe hit a few less fairways today, maybe a couple, but they were just, it was so hard this morning. I hit a 7-iron into that 15th hole. I had maybe 158 hole, and I think it went 120 yards, and I played it like 175. So, it was very challenging at times, and on the greens, it just becomes really hard to make putts when it's that windy. And then, so all in all, they were pretty similar conditions the 2 days. The wind was a little bit different direction, and I felt like I had, the same amount of chances. And, ideally, I capitalized on maybe 2 more per round of those 2, and and that wouldn't have been surprising on where I'm at. So it's really nice that I feel like, I didn't steal anything out of the round today. I felt like, all in all, the two days were about how I was going to play. I was either going to shoot 2 to 4 under, and I ended up on the low side. So hopefully tomorrow, I hit putts a little bit harder and be a little bit freer on the greens and shoot a score. It's going to continue to be windy.
Good to see Spieth in the mix going into the weekend. He goes into this season ranked 61st in the world, and really, this week the ball striking has been very good. We'll see if he can kind of turn the clock back, bring out a putting performance from the 2015 era. I think that's what really the game of Jordan Spieth is waiting on, just to get on another run with a putter. Once again, 5 back, 100 to 1. Not a horrible look at all with Spieth going into the weekend. The 2 notable live numbers that I have my eye on going into the weekend, the 2 that I would recommend you're getting a lot of value in Siwoo Kim at 30-1 after he closed at 22-1 on Thursday. And then Michael Kim sitting 5 shots back of the lead at 100-1 on DraftKings. I mean, that is some phenomenal value for a player who won over the fall at the French Open on the DP World Tour, where he fended off big-time talent like Brooks Koepka, Minwoo Lee, Elvis Smiley. You got to watch out for Michael Kim to make a move today and insert himself into this golf tournament. If you're not going to go outright on Kim, let's see if I can find you a 3-ball here. I like Michael Kim over Bryce Garnett. I do not like Michael Kim over Daniel Berger. I do not have a problem with Michael Kim over Adam Svensson. So, if you're not on board with the idea of Kim coming all the way back and winning this golf tournament, obviously I like Nick Dunlop to do that. He sits 2 back at 7 under going to the weekend. Michael Kim over Bryce Garnett, you can get that at minus 105 on Bovada. I don't mind that play at all. Let's get to a couple of your texts before we get out of here. Fish, here we go. Doc, did you hear Marco Ping signed with PXG? Any thoughts there? I think Marco Ping could be one of the best rookies among the players who finished top 10 on the DP World Tour last year. I also think that switching from Mizuno to PXG is taking a major step back as far as quality of product. Mizuno makes some of the best irons and wedges in the world, and Marco won 3 times last year with those Mizuno clubs. I think it's a foolish decision for him to switch to PXG at this point in time. Here's Pete. I saw Michael Block is in the field next week at the Amex. Is that fake news? Pete, I wish it was. Here we go again with Block. He's made 7 starts worldwide in the last 2 years and hasn't made 1 cut. So I have no idea why this guy continues to take a spot from players. But as we've talked about before, the title sponsor puts in all the money. And Blocky is an Amex ambassador. So if they want him in the field, he's going to play. It's just the way it works. Listen, great show today. Excellent performance by Ryan Mara behind the ones and twos, superstar producer. We will talk next Saturday here on the Golf Hour on ESPN Houston. Have a great weekend, everybody.